hear you're ready for your dose of reality.
Welcome to the Dr. Quack Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Quack.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem. And guess what? We're being fair to Flair.
Woo!
That's right. So as you can see, here it is right up there. Royal Rumble 1992. We're on the road to the Royal Rumble, so we might as well show you one of the really good ones.
Yeah, and this one is arguably one of the best ones here as far as that goes. But we're not talking about just the match. We're talking about the entire card. This took place on January 19th, 1992 in Albany, New York. We had 17,000 in attendance, and the big tagline was, "Every man for himself."
Except for Bobby Heenan, who was being fair to Flair.
He was always being fair to Flair. On commentary, we had Gorilla Monsoon and Bobby Heenan.
Can't beat it. That's a great team. They always were great. Bobby Heenan, unfortunately, and Gorilla are not as good on interview, or they're better at interviews and doing shows than they are doing the live pay-per-views, but they're still great.
Oh, yeah, you can't really beat them too much. There's a really great combination of broadcasters there. On interviews, we had Mean Gene Okerlund, Sean Mooney, and Lord Alfred Hayes.
Well, I only remember Lord Alfred Hayes doing one thing, and then he did something for Coliseum Home Video, where he filmed something with Ric Flair that was not seen on the show, but it was seen to the people at home, so it kind of killed the mystique of what number Ric Flair got. We'll get into that here in a little bit.
Yeah. Ring announcer, of course, Howard Finkel.
That's right. Can't touch the Fink. The Fink's awesome.
And referees, we had John Bonella, Dangerous Danny Davis, Earl Hebner, and Joey Morella.
All great referees. Can't say much about them either.
Yeah, I mean, a class act right there. Opening match, we have the New Foundation. Jim Neidhart and Owen Hart taking on the Orient Express. Kato and Pat Tanaka with Mr. Fuji.
That's right. The New Foundation, something Vince McMahon has done over the years. When something worked, he'll jump on the bandwagon of, hey, let's try it again. And the New Foundation didn't really work. The outfits looked stupid. Then they put it on Coco Beware. It looked even worse. So this match, though, was a good match. This was a very classic opening style match. It was a little long. It was about 20 minutes long. But it was an excellent storytelling match with Owen Hart and Pat Tanaka and Kato, who is Paul Diamond, by the way, who was Max Moon, amongst other things. This match was really, really good. It was a strong match. The crowd definitely was into this. The crowd was into what was going on. I gave it 3 stars.
I went a little lower. I went about 2.5. It was an okay match. You know, it was WWE in the 1990s where they used to have a 20 to 25 minute opener. Fuji the Stooge over there, Mr. Fuji, always doing his great stuff outside the ring, antagonizing the crowd.
Right. And the WWF, let's get it correct, in the early 90s, actually that was all the way through the 80s, 90s, up until about the middle of the Attitude Era. They used to have a really long opening match, and it was usually a good, slow match where they did a lot of crowd work trying to get people involved. I thought this was one of the better examples. It kind of started to put Owen Hart on the map a little bit as somebody who they could do something with. But you're right, it was a very typical classic style of 80s, 90s wrestling booking.
And a big thing I noticed was Owen Hart in general. He looked like he was beefier than, like, maybe he was on the gas. I don't know. He definitely looked like he had a bigger build versus later in his career. I don't know if there was something with that, but definitely he did more of a ground game in this match than he did aerial.
That's true. He did some aerial stuff, but he was fairly grounded. But hanging out with Neidhart, drinking 43 beers at a session, that might do it too.
Yeah, that laugh. Never forget that. And moving along here, we had the Intercontinental Championship match. The champion, the Mountie, taking on Hot Rod, Rowdy Piper, with Jimmy Hart in the corner for the Mountie.
All right. This crowd was very, very hot for this match. This one, the Mountie, he only held the belt for about a month and a half at this point when this match came about. He was on a hot streak. The match was a good storytelling match. I really, really enjoyed this. Piper was starting to get a little bit older, so the match, he didn't bring as much to the match as he did in the 80s. But it was still a really, really strong match. I went 2 3/4 on this. Roddy Piper, his first IC win.
Yes, I mean, first major title in his prime. The next title he won in WWE was 2006 with Ric Flair as the tag team champions. I gave it 2.5 stars. I love the finish where, Piper got a hold of the cattle prod and shocked the Mountie. As a kid, I loved it. As an adult, I loved it. I felt like it was a great thing. Jimmy Hart dropped that thing and ran out of the ring like a little schoolgirl. But yeah, I mean, the Mountie, he was a good transitional champion. It didn't have to worry about because he beat Bret Hart a few days prior because Bret Hart supposedly had a 103-degree fever.
Yeah, this is one of those things where house shows used to serve 2 purposes. One, it was to build interest in towns where they don't get a lot of WWF action, so the storylines didn't matter. They just want to see the action. But also, if they needed to make a title change where something was going to happen storyline later on, a lot of times those things were done in house shows. This IC title change between Bret Hart and the Mountie did happen on a house show.
Yeah, it's rare. It really is, but it looked good for the match. It helped set up Piper's career there, which eventually led to WrestleMania with him and Hart fighting. But yeah, I want to go into a good thing here because, like I always say with WWF back in the days, their vignettes where they would have people talk about the Royal Rumble and they were going to win were excellent. But now I got to give my 2-finger salute because right now, Lord Alfred Hayes, and I love you to death, but this interview here with Hulk Hogan was just straight garbage. There's not a lot of things on this card I can really give a 2-finger salute to. This is probably the closest thing. It wasn't bad, but it was not good. I'm like, seriously, going in there, rushing the Hulkster, coming up with the interview. It seemed like it was very rushed, not planned. It looked kind of distorted to me. It looked like Hogan wasn't really prepared for it. It just didn't come off right to me. So that gets my 2-finger salute.
Well, at this time, Hulk Hogan, this would have been right around the time of WrestleMania 8. Hogan was starting to be on the outs with the WWF. So he may have said, you know what, I don't want to do an interview. I'm not winning. I'm not doing anything important. So he might have tried to walk off, and they tried to bum rush him too, because when the camera's on, Hogan is on.
And by the way, he would have been, if he had won this Rumble 3 times in a row.
That's right.
Because he won 91 and he won 90.
So that might have been what happened there. Unfortunately, Lord Alfred Hayes, I'm not a personally great fan of his. He's very boring. He doesn't have any engagement ability. When you look at him, he looks like he's a piece of stone. His eyes don't move. His mouth barely moves. He doesn't move his arms. And when he turns, he doesn't turn his head. He turns his whole body. So I'm not a fan of Lord Alfred Hayes, but I see what you're saying about that. And he probably was good in the 60s and 70s, but by this point, he was really long past his prime.
And now we're going to take a quick commercial. And I'm telling you, we've got a big card here continuing on.
But before we continue on, make sure you give our sponsors some love.
Yes, give our love out there for Crystal Infinity. But now we have the Bushwhackers with Jameson taking on the Beverly Brothers and the Genius.
I was looking for something to spray like him. He was really struggling with trying to find something here on the two-finger salute. I'd like to spray a lot of things in this match because there's a lot of things that were done wrong in this match. So I'm going to spray two people here because these two people really didn't need to be here. The match was fine without them. So, since it's two people, if you'd like to give me a hand here.
Oh, always.
We're going to spray the Genius, and we're going to spray Jameson. They did not need to be involved in this match, and I will explain it after the spray. So you get Jameson, I'll get the Genius.
Oh, yeah. God, what a horrible character. God, you know, he just...
There, thank you. So, first of all, to explain Jameson Winger, that was the gimmick name that he was given. Jameson Winger. He was an actor named John Giacomo. Man, I cannot talk today. I'm sorry. Folks, forgive me. John D. Giacomo. That is a tough name to say. He is an actor who has no other credits except the Bobby Heenan Show, Wrestling Challenge, and this Royal Rumble event. So, but he's supposedly an actor. Now, the Genius, Lanny Poffo, while I enjoyed the Genius, this is the time where the Genius really started to fall off the rails, and he was totally humiliated and shortly after pushed out the door. So, the Beverly Brothers, who were a good tag team in the AWA known as the Destruction Crew, Wayne the Train Bloom and Mean Mike Enos. They came here, they're not pretty boys, they're not filthy rich spoon in the mouth kind of people. And this gimmick didn't work here. Taking on the Bushwhackers, who are legitimate Hall of Famers. They deserve it. They earned it. Yeah. But at this time, they'd been in the business about 28 years, so they were at the last legs of their career as well. So there was a lot of things on this match that didn't work. The thing that did work on this is these guys knew how to entertain a crowd. The crowd loved this match. It didn't have a lot of action. It didn't need a lot of action. The crowd laughed. The crowd cheered. The crowd followed the roller coaster. 2.5 stars. That's about all I got to say about it.
Yeah, I mean, I went about the same. It was a passable tag team match. You know, it was okay. I hate the way the WWE did the Beverly Brothers and the Bushwhackers. If they could have kept their original gimmicks, that would have been even a better fight. The Construction Crew taking on
the Sheep Herders.
I mean, I would have rather seen that any day of the week.
I would even been fine with Jack Victory standing next to the Sheep Herders.
Oh, my God. Yeah, it would have been a better deal. It was an okay match. It was passable. But, you know, it is what it is. It was WWE in 1992.
Yep.
So, moving along here, now we go from one tag team match to another tag team match.
Which, by the way, 3 of the 4 matches, except for the Royal Rumble, were tag team matches.
Right, it was Tag Team Fest. You don't get this today where people actually have great tag teams. So you had the Natural Disasters taking on the Legion of Doom. Jimmy Hart in the corner of the Natural Disasters.
This match, it was a storytelling match. It was really for things that were happening further on down the road. Unfortunately, they had to do things here on a pay-per-view. I'm not a huge fan of using a pay-per-view to push a story further down the road without adding anything of significance. This match really didn't add a lot of significance to the feud between the Legion of Doom and the Natural Disasters. Natural Disasters won by countout on this match. It told the story. The crowd at this point, they kind of didn't care a little bit. The feud actually started picking up shortly after this. Yes. That's why I'm saying this match here didn't add anything to their feud. But technically, there were no flaws on it. I gave it 2.5.
Yeah, I mean, I went 2 3/4. I felt like it was a good match. I love the finish. And like he said, you know, it went beyond that where it really started to pick up. For the next couple years, actually, tag teams were actually important there from 92 about to 94. Once 94 hit, it seemed like it went downhill because then you had the Quebecers and you had Men on a Mission, and it was not the same.
Well, and then they tried to pick it up again, but then in 96, where we get the Tag Team for a Day thing, They were two guys standing there together. They didn't have tag team names. They didn't look the same. So for a long time, tag team wrestling suffered. But at this time, tag teams were tag teams, and it was cool.
So now let's move on to the main event, because really that was the big part of this show. The rest of this card was just filler. And we're talking about the Royal Rumble, 30 men.
Yeah, this one, 2 minutes time frame, because they had a lot of strong talent in here that could carry the 2 minutes. And by count, we have 17 Hall of Famers out of 30.
And this was for the World Wrestling Federation Championship. The winner got it from the vacant title because they took it away from Hulk Hogan after how he beat The Undertaker on this Tuesday in Texas.
That's right. So I'm going to go down the list here of this is the order that they came into the ring. The first two were the British Bulldog and Ted DiBiase. And here's where we get into that thing that Lord Alfred Hayes did. They asked Ric Flair what his number was, but nobody saw it on the main thing. So they kept asking, I wonder what Flair's number is. Bobby Heenan, the whole show, kept trying to find out what his number was. Well, Lord Alfred Hayes knew Ric Flair was number 3. Then we went Jerry Sags, Haku, Shawn Michaels, El Matador Tito Santana, The Barbarian, Kerry Von Erich, The Repo Man, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Nikolai Volkov, The Big Boss Man, Hercules, Roddy Piper. That's something else they also mentioned about. Roddy Piper is so far that we could find the only person who on the same show had a chance to win the IC and world title on the same show. He got one, he didn't get the other. We'll go into who won here at the end. So, Roddy Piper, Jake the Snake Roberts, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, IRS, Superfly Jimmy Snuka, The Undertaker, Macho Man Randy Savage, The Berserker, Virgil, Colonel Mustafa, The Model Rick Bartel, Hulk Hogan, Skinner, Sergeant Slaughter, Sid, and at number 30, The Warlord.
As you can tell, a lot of big names on there, a lot of fan favorites that people actually wanted to come watch here. This match to me was awesome. You had certain parts where, and Flair was taking every finisher, it seemed like, in the book. He was taking high impact moves throughout the hour-long time that he spent in there. He actually held the record at the point.
Yes, 1 hour and 2 minutes or something like that. That was not eclipsed until it was Masked Man. Rey Mysterio was the one that took the record away from him.
Yes, 1 hour, 2 minutes, and 2 seconds to point it out exactly. But, there was parts in this match where Piper had him in a sleeper, and here came Jake the Snake down. Jake's like, go ahead, man, handle your business. He turns his back. He gets attacked by Jake Roberts. That was just classic.
Yep, and there were some characters in here we enjoyed that we wish we could see some more of, like the Repo Man. The Repo Man had 3 eliminations in this match. He did really well. Duggan had several eliminations in this match. Sid had 6. Ric Flair had 4. Ric Flair finally wins the match by eliminating Sid at the end. So that was the start of what became the WrestleMania 8 feud, where Sid dumped Hulk Hogan. Hulk Hogan gets mad, grabs Sid's arm, and Ric Flair finishes it to win the world title.
Yeah, and we talk about the greatest Royal Rumbles and the greatest WrestleManias. These two do not match. This was probably the greatest Royal Rumble, or arguably one of the greatest, and probably one of the worst WrestleManias.
Oh,
big gap difference.
We have reviewed WrestleMania 8. Check it out if you haven't seen it yet. Check out our review of that. There are a couple of matches on there that are decent, but it is not good.
Yeah, overall, this was a great show. Definitely enjoyed it. I could watch it again, especially the Rumble match itself. I could watch that anytime, any day, and be like, yeah, this is just how it should be.
And I agree. We've got one more. I'm going to get to announce this one because we've got one more. We're coming up on Royal Rumble 2022.
What do we got?
But we've got one more. I changed the run sheet on this one because this is also one of the greatest Royal Rumbles of all time. So I get to reveal to you Royal Rumble 2004.
Oh, God. That right there, God, I can't wait to watch this now.
You didn't get to scare me this time. I got to show you I can choose.
Well, I'm glad it's a pleasant surprise. Thank you, God. And for that, folks, make sure you tune into our next episode, Royal Rumble 2004. I'm your host, Dr. Quack.
And I'm the important one, Mr. Mayhem. See you on the next show.
We're out. And now, from the Dr. Quack podcast, we have some bonus footage here. We wanted to present to you the Quack Attack! Yeah, that's right. We forgot to bring in the Quack Attack, and I'm going to bring it to you now because my Quack Attack here for this show goes directly to Bobby the Brain Heenan. Without his commentary, this wouldn't have been put over as well as it did. Bobby Heenan did a phenomenal job. And for that note, make sure you watch that show. Make sure you check out our upcoming events, and I'll see you then.